Hi, I'm Viktor, simulation specialist at PLM Group. In this video I'll show some Tet-Meshing and basic mesh editing with SIMULIA on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. So let's create a Tet-Mesh, a tetrahedral mesh on this part, and let's do some mesh editing with the tools we have available. This one has an abstraction shape that contains a linked copy of the geometry, and it has the original 3D shape. So I'm going to hide the original geometry and then we're going to mesh the abstraction shape. So we'll make sure we are on the top level. We happen to be in model assembly design. That's fine. So I'm going to right click and insert the finite element model, and let's rename it so we can find it easily. Like this, and then I'm going to double click it, and then we're switching to the structural model creation. And now we need to choose the abstraction shape is what we're going to use, and then we can proceed with the meshing. So I'm going to use the Tet-Mesh or the tetrahedral mesher here, and we're going to select the body here like so, and I'm going to create the mesh with a certain setting. And we should note here that the little edges here that we had, they're not reflected in the mesh. So if I open the visibility manager and hide the FE models, you can see that there are some edges here that come from the 3D geometry, and they're not reflected in the mesh, right? So to make sure that this is available in the mesh so that the mesh conforms to this, we can go in and use the editing tools. Before we use some local specifications, it's available in another video, some explanation. But if I click the edit button here, we get into the mesh editor, so the tetrahedral mesher. And now we can modify the mesh. So we can hide the geometry here, so we see only the mesh, and we can also hide the mesh, and then we see the lines here. So the yellow lines are lines where the mesh is constrained, and the blue lines are available edges or lines where the mesh is not constrained. And we can modify this. We can use the constraint tab here and use these tools here, or we can just click one of the edges. So let's try to grab this edge, for example, and then constrain the mesh to this edge. Now the mesh should update right away, and we can see that it does conform. Here as well, there's another edge here. I'm going to try to grab it like this and constrain, and the mesh should conform right away. So now when we use this face here as a support for a boundary condition or a load, it's going to select this particular collection of nodes. So that means that we can use these faces as support for load and boundary condition. For other geometries, it's also possible to unconstrain some edges. It's not going to make much difference here, but you can do it, and then maybe if you have a lot of edges near each other, you can unconstrain some, and then the body might mesh easier. If I'm done with my mesh editing, I can exit the app, and then we just need to add the section. So the section, I will go to the Properties tab, Solid Section, and then define, and make sure I pick the body in the abstraction shape. That is the contributing shape for this model. Material is picked automatically because it's assigned to the physical product or to the 3D shape. Okay, and now we have a usable mesh for this model. Thanks for watching.